Yeah, King P here,
And Steely07.
and welcome to another episode of This Week in Metropolis, and an exciting one as it's the start of the new season. And if you're watching this, you will notice that you can see us.
We are
Ta-da!
now in view of all of our listeners and viewers now on YouTube.
Exposed to the world.
Yeah, we are back. We've had a couple of weeks off to recuperate, recover, re-energise,
Charge the batteries,
refresh our ideas for what is the masterpiece that is This Week in Metropolis. Quite a few things have happened in the last couple of weeks. We've been talking about it kind of between us, not on the show, and lots of things that we'd probably at the time would have spoken about more in episodes, like the Batman trailer reveal, which finally came out. Mad to think as well that I believe, I mean, it's probably changed a little bit since then, but when that came out, I think the film was only 30% complete.
And it looked like a finished film, to be honest. Looking at the trailer, it looked amazing.
Yeah, it looked incredible. And I mean, I've only spoken to one person who isn't sure about it. However, I also feel that he might be setting his expectations low so that whatever he does see when it comes out, it kind of makes it a lot better. But everyone else I've spoken to thinks it looks incredible. The casting, the dark, gritty feel of it. For me, my personal thoughts are it's the closest thing to a prequel of The Dark Knight that you could actually ask for. Because it's got that same sort of feel. I don't know what you felt.
It has, definitely. I think for me, in a way of what you just said, my expectations were so low, and we talked about this before, that we was unsure about Robert Pattinson and so on doing it. But watching it, it just captures the essence of the Batman I love, that whole sort of grimy thing. And I think, it's not necessarily a thing to be celebrated, but in that trailer, when he's confronted by that gang, and he just goes to town on that guy, doesn't he? Yeah. It's not any sort of, oh, I'm Batman. He ruins him, doesn't he? And that's in a way what Batman's about. He pushes that.
And that was one of my favourite scenes in the trailer, actually, because it nearly would have ruined it for me. And I'll tell you for why. When he says, I think someone says, "Who are you?" And I was just waiting for him to say, "I'm Batman." And I thought, if you say that, it's just such a, it's almost like I was expecting him to say it, and I thought, oh, it's not going to work. And the fact that he said, "I'm vengeance," I was like, yes, you are. And I thought it was incredible. And I didn't even realise that Colin Farrell was going to be playing the character who becomes the Penguin. I don't think he's actually Penguin.
No, I didn't either.
Straight from the off. And as I'm watching the trailer, it wasn't until I read kind of a review of it afterwards where it pointed out where he was in it, and he was this kind of big, chunky guy driving a car. I wouldn't have even recognised it was him. But you've obviously got the Riddler, who I think is going to be the main villain in this, and again a completely different turn on the Jim Carrey version that I always connect with the Riddler, and then Catwoman as well in there. Selena Gomez is her actual, I think that's her who's the character that's going to be, rather than as she becomes Catwoman.
The only thing that makes me worried about like that sort of thing is, and I've found it with even Dark Knight Rises, and I think it was Batman Returns, was it, or something like that. So many villains. I prefer it if it's Batman or whoever plus his nemesis, whoever it is, rather than there's all these sort of villains hanging around. But I guess it depends how they fit it in.
I think there was rumours that there was going to be even more villains in this one. But I mean, I think from the trailer they've kind of revealed what they're sticking with. I think because this story is going to follow closely to more of a detective style story than a superhero vigilante, although there's that element to it. I think there's going to be a lot more on the investigative side of the story. And because it's all around Arkham, I think you're going to see potential spoilers and Easter eggs of other villains. So very interesting, and more to come. There was apparently, and I've not seen it or managed to solve it yet, but there was a riddle in the trailer which one of our listeners spoke to me about, and he's already looked into it and found someone that's cracked it online, and it's something to do with, there was a clip of a letter or a card. I think it was the card that was left for Batman,
Right.
and there was like symbols in it, and there was a code to that, and people have already worked out what the code is.
That's insane. Where would you start in terms of doing that?
People have got more time than they should.
Yes.
Although, under current circumstances, haven't we all? So yeah, and also linked to this as well, Robert Pattinson supposedly tested positive for coronavirus. So there's been further delays.
Hold, I think.
So there's been more hold up on that. And also while we was off, there was some sad news. Obviously, the passing of Chadwick Boseman, who I know him prominently from Black Panther. You and I recently watched the film 21 Bridges, which he was the lead in that, and another great film. He's done a lot more films that I need to check out, which are supposed to be kind of groundbreaking, and a credit to the guy for acting in the films that he, the Avengers movies, the Black Panther movie. He was suffering from his illness at them times, and you wouldn't have known it. And I watched an interview. He was one of the more recent films that he done. That was done, I think, in Vietnam or Thailand. He's co-star in that. I can't remember his name, but he was on the news talking about him, and he said the impression, he'd always wanted to work with Chadwick Boseman, but the impression that he got from working with him was that he was he'd almost milked the kind of attention around him and all that. And he said he said, I feel really bad for thinking that, because he had people kind of massaging his back in between shoots and all that. And it turns out it was, they were looking after him going. And he said, and the guy broke down on the news, like talking about it, and you feel for him, because you can form an opinion that quickly, and I think it's honourable of him to say how he felt and how he feels now. But other than that, and just how much of a top guy, and I've seen loads of people talking about it, but very sad news with that. 43, no age.
Yeah, no, not all.
But more positive news. Not that I want to step away too quickly from that sad news, but something big happened for us while we was off.
That's it.
We've got merch. And if you're watching this, you can see it. Me and Matt are sporting our This Week in Metropolis t-shirts, which you can order from Redbubble. We'll need to get a link on our website, Matt, for that. So
that's a very good point, actually. We have shared the link, I think, in posts on Instagram, and have put stuff on there. T-shirts, mugs, and stickers is what's available at the moment.
More to come maybe in the future.
Exactly.
But, you can go and find the whole range of colours that you can buy these wonderful t-shirts in. But that was that's probably what's happened in the last couple of weeks in Metropolis. What have you got for us, Matt?
This week, the thing that stood out, which has happened actually in the last 24 hours since we before we started, is McDonald's have released a new celebrity meal, which is Travis Scott has been associated with this meal, and the meal itself it's a celebrity tie-in, but it's allegedly, I mean, I obviously can't check the proof of this, but it's the burger that he would order himself in the past, which is a quarter pounder with cheese with bacon, lettuce, pickles, ketchup and mustard in it, medium fries with barbecue sauce, and a Sprite is the actual meal itself. But the thing I found interesting, I mean, it's interesting in itself because it links to what we've spoken about before, like celebrities tying themselves to perfume or alcohol and that sort of thing. He's had this endorsement by McDonald's. But the last time they did anything like this was in 1992. Could you guess who that might be that they would have done in 92? This person was at the height of their career at this time, or
I would say, excuse my dog. I would say Michael Jackson.
No, but you got
Mu-
the first name right.
Michael Jordan.
Correct.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm pleased that I got that in too.
So yeah, Michael Jordan had a McJordan burger apparently in 1992. I don't know what was in that, but yeah. So it's interesting that for me, I find it interesting that Travis Scott. I really like Travis Scott and have sort of followed his music for years and years. But Travis Scott, Michael Jordan, you don't really put them on the same level. And also, Travis Scott is for me, he's not like I don't know. You wouldn't be surprised if One Direction had a burger
Yeah.
or something because they're in the sort of pop culture in that sense. Whereas Travis Scott, I see as more underground artist. Now I find it really interesting that he's successful in what he does, but for McDonald's to have that deal with him, I think that's quite cool.
Do you
Really.
think? Because I think we spoke about it before on here, but if not, you and I have definitely spoke about it outside of the show. The gig that he done on Fortnite,
Yeah.
and just the appeal that he had on that alone.
Yeah.
And again,
Huge.
it's not something that I would expect. Is he? I mean, I'm not. I know a few of his songs, but I'm not a massive fan of his. But is he more targeted towards a younger audience in that respect?
Maybe. I mean, he's done a lot recently. I mean, you saying he did a Fortnite. You could buy a Fortnite skin, so you can play as Travis Scott in the game. He's got a range of shoes with Nike that have come out recently and are ongoing. I think he did a cereal. I can't remember what the cereal was, but it was with him branded as a Travis Scott thing that you could buy, and so he's obviously getting the money. He's using his brand as such to go wild at the moment, and
That's
good on him. But
it sounds like he is becoming a bigger brand than maybe we realise, in the
yeah,
sense that a lot of these, well, McDonald's is huge. Fortnite as a game and an online platform is
yeah,
huge. So, and all the other things you just mentioned. So maybe certainly in America, maybe he is
bigger than we realised. Yeah,
bigger than we realise, say over here in the UK,
yeah.
and it's only slowly becoming more apparent, I guess.
The funny thing is, as well, with this, as leading from us talking about merch, is to celebrate and cash in on this burger. He's got a full range of merch that goes with it, which is sort of, oh God, there must be like 15 different T-shirts. There are hoodies, there are shorts, there are trousers, there are doormats. There's a McNugget body pillow. If you fancy it, it looks like a big nugget, basically like a photorealistic nugget. The thing that makes me laugh about it though is some of the things would actually make you look like you worked at McDonald's, because there's a brown jacket with like it's the M, like the golden arches on, but it says Cactus Jack, which is sort of his nickname. You can get a baseball cap, you can get brown trousers as well, a brown tie with a burger on and things like that. So you could do this weird sort of dress up as a McDonald's worker, but
Which
/ Travis Scott fan.
You've always wanted to be.
Yeah. I will openly admit I've spent time on eBay looking at McDonald's merchandise and KFC merchandise, which I think we've talked about before.
I think we have talked about before, but I remember you buying the was it Pizza Planet from Toy Story merch?
Yeah, I've got a Pizza Planet hoodie, which is awesome.
Yeah, I remember you getting that. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, some people there's obviously a market for it at the end of the day. Otherwise, they wouldn't necessarily go ahead with these things. But I guess they would. But yeah. Well, while we're on the subject of music, and this is a good tie-in actually to some news that I've noticed over the last week, and it's kind of linking to a new segment that we've been talking about, but I won't go into that just yet. But there is a 20-year anniversary album coming out that's being promoted, and massive band. Do you know, I was thinking about it this morning. It's probably one of my all-time favourites. Definitely top 3. So that's saying something. 20 years since. I don't even know if it was the first album that I definitely had of theirs. They may have had some kind of initial ones before that that kind of weren't
Yeah.
as mainstream. But Hybrid Theory by Linkin Park,
Really?
20 years.
Wow. That's
And
insane, isn't
they're
it?
releasing a box set. Sounds incredible. Don't ask me how much it is because I haven't done that much research to tell you how much it's going to be. And it's not out until next month, so not out till October. But
Right.
they're plugging it on Twitter and that at the moment. But it's going to contain 5 CDs,
Wow.
3 LPs, 3 DVDs of live
Yeah.
gigs that they've done, a cassette with all the original sort of recordings that they've done, an 80-page book, and then other posters, artwork, and things like that.
Wow.
So, yeah, it sounds. I don't know how much they're going to put this all in for. I know 2 of the obviously you've got Hybrid Theory, the first album. They've also got Reanimation, which was the remix one, which I thought that actually came out. I thought that was after Meteora, so I'm pretty sure it
Yeah.
had some of the tracks from Meteora mixed on there as well. But yeah, incredible. Like, I
That is
mean,
amazing.
I think it's such a shame that Chester, obviously, another famous, big name who passed away
Yeah.
suddenly,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's such a shame that they couldn't carry on as a complete entity. But
Yeah.
I know that they have still been doing stuff because I was listening to a bit of their stuff this morning, and there was a track of theirs with which was them featuring or them working with, is it Steve Aoki?
Yeah.
You know what I'm on about?
Yeah, I
He's like
do.
a famous
He's
DJ,
a,
isn't he?
yeah, it's like a
Um, and
EDM
yeah, and
DJ.
I'm pretty sure it was just Mike Shinoda doing the vocals, and
Really?
the track wasn't what I would associate with Linkin Park, so
Yeah.
it's very different. But 20 years, God, doesn't that make you feel old?
It does make me feel incredibly old. Because I remember when that came out, and I remember that it's one of those memories working. I remember working in the shop and having the radio on then, and
Mm.
so they kept playing sort of. I can't remember what the first single was that came off of that, but it kept
Paper
playing.
cut.
Yeah, and keep thinking, wow, this is really good. I was serving customers thinking, yeah, this is really good. I really like this.
Yeah, it was
Absolutely loved it.
definitely one of the albums that got me into kind of new metal as
Mm.
it was then. And a funny story that you've never seen. You've heard this story because my best
Oh
man
yeah, I know
mentioned it
what
at
you're
my
gonna
wedding.
say.
But
Yeah.
the fact that when we were still at school, this is when we were listening to this. We was in sixth form, and I'd actually left, but 2 of my friends, Mark, who's
Yeah.
question mark, and a good friend of mine, Steve, they were doing media in A level and had to do a music video, and I was very keen to get involved, and we done out of Mark's Nan's garage. What song did we do? Oh God, I can't even remember what song. Was it Crawling? Maybe I can't even remember what song it was now off the top of my head. But it was incredible. We're miming. We had an electric guitar that weren't plugged in. We had me and Steve fighting over who was going to do the lead vocals. And this is all recorded. I've got a copy of it on videotape somewhere. I'll need to dig that out and play it. But it was incredible. But
Amazing.
we could literally sing, when I say sing badly, all of them songs word for word. Like, it was just
Yeah.
an amazing, that first album, and Meteor as well, actually, they
Yeah.
were just incredible albums.
They're an interesting band because I've always liked them. But people, like some of the people in metal, like that really love metal and whatever, see them a bit more as a pop band. And they for me, they do. They sort of sit on that balance quite well. And they've got really catchy songs and really catchy hooks. They don't really swear or anything in the lot of their songs, and it's quite
Clean.
darker subjects,
Mm.
but it is pretty, safe in that regard. But it's still got that metal sort of
Yeah.
side to it. And they came out sort of fairly to the end of new metal, and sort of you had Korn years before it, and then you had Limp Bizkit years before it, and they'd all had that success, and they came really at that tail end of stuff. I remember seeing them on that tour. No, I think I said when we was talking about the gigs. I saw the Deftones, which at the time were a band that me and my friend absolutely loved, and Linkin Park supported them.
How huge is that though for them?
Yeah,
in their earlier days to be supporting Deftones.
As far as I'm aware, that was their first gig in the UK.
Wow!
And I remember seeing it and thinking, like, having heard their stuff and thinking, oh, cool, it's them.
Were they good live?
They were, but it was unfortunately the London Arena had awful sound, and so it was. They were good, but it's just the sound was terrible in that place.
I've seen clips of them live, and one of their albums actually was like a Texas live album, which I've got somewhere, and it sounds incredible. But again, being there is completely different. Even still, just to listening to a DVD or whatever.
I did see him and again, I think this was in my top 5. I saw him later on. In 2010, maybe probably a little bit of 2008, maybe when they did a thing at Milton Keynes, and absolutely faultless, amazing, absolutely amazing band to see live. But it's good. It does. You're right though. It does make me feel old. Unfortunately, I'm now of the age where a lot of my albums that are sort of the ones that informed my musical tastes are now 30 years old, and sort of.
But they're the ones that I find it really difficult to listen to newer music now. I think times have changed anyway, and we're in a different time for music with regards to what's more popular and so forth. I know you can still find your genre of music that you like, but I still find myself listening to all the old stuff, and I'll incorporate maybe a new artist here or there. But I know you're pretty good at listening to and discovering new stuff, because a lot of it you send to me. But it's still my go-to is Linkin Park, is Limp Bizkit and things like that.
Yeah. But the weird thing I find now is I can now, and I think Spotify is thanks to Spotify, is I can discover. I'm the same, but I'm sort of mainly. I was big into Nirvana and Smashing Pumpkins and that sort of early '90s alternative rock. Thanks to Spotify, I am now discovering bands that were out at that time that I never listened to, because at the time you had to buy a CD, and to spend 15 quid on that CD was a big thing if you were a teenager. So you didn't have that many unless your mate taped something for you. But now it'll come up. I'll sort of listen to an album, and it will then carry on playing, and it plays similar stuff. And stuff comes up, and I think, wow, who's this? I've never heard this before. I really like this. And then discover a band that I then Google and find out was probably quite successful at the time, but just weren't on my radar. Amazing.
Yeah. But even things like that. You've mentioned a band there, Smashing Pumpkins. Not one I knew of them, but they were probably a little bit before your time. A little bit before my time.
Yeah.
But again, even now, having all their back catalogue to listen to on these music platforms is awesome, because if you do find one that you like them, for example, it's like discovering new music, but it's old. But it's weird,
which is really crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And a band like Smashing Pumpkins sold millions. They were huge band, but now is relatively obscure because they haven't continued to do stuff. Well, they still release albums, but it's not.
And just for the viewers watching, you can confirm you're not related to Billy Corgan.
Billy Corgan, no, but I do try and fashion my baldness.
Your look. Well, what's it time now for, Matt?
Well, it's now time for a new section that James came up with, which is our chance to do a review for you, but what we like to do is do a review, but do it as, what we would say, efficiently as possible, let's say. So, it's now time for...
We do things that you don't have to. Really short reviews.
The Dark Knight 2008. Mysterious clown destroys the city whilst cosplaying billionaire befriends his childhood sweetheart's new boyfriend. I'd give that 10 out of 10.
We do things that you don't have to. really short reviews.
Well, talking of old stuff, we finished off season 3 talking about a film that you'd watched again for the first time in quite some time, The Karate Kid.
And I've now since, in the time off, I've watched 2 and 3. So, well up to date.
And I've actually seen, they've got the first one on Netflix at the moment, so I'm tempted to rewatch that after our conversation.
Yeah, I think I saw them on Amazon Prime. I watched them all on there.
But there's something linked to this that I'd seen on, and again, I want to say that's on Netflix. Again, I'm pretty sure it is, called Cobra Kai. And I'll tell you where I'd kept seeing it pop up as well, on YouTube, just as an advert, I think. And I linked it with Karate Kid, but I assumed it was some, spin-off and new version. Put it to one side, don't even worry about it. And it wasn't until today I saw a clip from Jimmy Fallon's chat show, and they had on there Ralph. How am I pronouncing his name? Ralph Macchio. And I'm looking at him, and they're talking about Cobra Kai, and I'm looking at him going, that can't be Daniel from Think. Yeah. And lo and behold, it is Daniel. He is the lead in Cobra Kai, or one of the main characters at least. They've also got William Zabka, who was Johnny Lawrence, who was the blonde guy. Yeah, the blonde guy, who was his kind of nemesis in the Karate Kid. He's in it. And they're both, so he set up Cobra Kai, and Daniel has set up, it's called Miyagi something or other.
Yeah.
And now I watched a trailer of it. I think it's mad. He still looks really young, but it turns out he's 58 now. Well, he's 60.
Do you know what? This is something that we can't believe in my house when we was talking about Karate Kid. When in the first Karate Kid, I think he's meant to be in high school.
Yeah.
And he looks really young. Really young. He was 22. When he did that. Yeah, exactly. And it's ridiculous. You look and you think you can't be 22, but he was.
What is he using?
Yeah.
He must have been drinking something. But anyway, so now I'm kind of like, I feel like I need to watch this because it's got really good reviews. I think there's already been a season or 2. I don't know what season they're in, but he was on there promoting the next series of it. Yeah. So I'm really intrigued to know where they go with it because, it was... like we talked about at the end of last series, such a good film. Like all of the ones that he was in were incredible. Have you seen any of the clips from Cobra Kai?
No, I haven't yet.
But you heard about it.
Yeah, I was reading an interview with Ralph Macchio on a newspaper when they were interviewing him about it and doing Cobra Kai and stuff like that. Which was how I heard of it. But I think, wasn't it? I'm sure I'm right in saying it was a YouTube original or something. I think they did the first series.
Yeah.
Which is where that sort of originally came from. But yeah.
But it's really funny watching him as Ralph Macchio talking because I'm expecting him to have like this Brooklyn sort of. I don't know if that's where he was from originally.
I think he was Jersey or somewhere like that.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And he kind of has like quite a strong like accent. I don't want to try and do an impression because it'll be really bad. But when he's talking normally, it's completely different. And I wonder what sort of accent he'll use when he's in this. Whether it's almost like a bit of a twang to it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But so I'm definitely going to check that out, and I'll report back to you on whether it's any good on the show.
I think it's nice when they do those sort of things, but they do it well.
Yeah.
There's so much scope for that sort of stuff. And I think people, like us talking about music and us wanting to listen to old music and that, and there's still that desire for these things and these brands and like the nostalgia behind them.
Yeah.
Why shouldn't it work? Passing it on as such.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, definitely. Well, not linked at all to sort of anything we've just talked about, but it is linked to environment, which we was talking about and you got in a load of trouble about earlier, or in the last episode or previous episode. And for me, I don't quite know how I feel about this particular article, so I'm interested to get your perspective on it. Lewis Hamilton, Formula One racing driver, world champion, however many times, amazing sort of sportsman. who happens to compete in one of the most unenvironmentally friendly sports ever, as such, because of the pollution and so on that thing Formula One causes, has done a very good thing. Don't get me wrong. He has launched his own team, which will compete in the Extreme E off-road racing series. It's not anything I've heard of before, but it's apparently a thing that happens. And what they do is drive electric monster trucks, like these huge or big Jeep things, off-road and race them. But the environmental, not only in fact they're completely electric, so therefore much more environmentally friendly. They race through regions that are at risk to climate change. So they'll drive through glaciers, rainforests, deserts, and so on. The weird thing is, though, is it says they do it in these areas that are at risk to help try and preserve their delicate ecosystems. So I don't quite know how that fits. Yeah, fair enough, you're getting awareness, but yeah, I'm just going to drive my big truck through this rainforest. Surely that isn't a good thing.
And crush everything in its path.
Yeah, so I don't quite know how that works. It's a good idea, but...
I mean, there's already Formula E.
Yeah, that's it.
So, I mean...
But now, I guess that's more Formula One, isn't it? But
it's Formula One with electric cars. I feel like he's just trying to find a bit of a loop that... I get the intentions, but I don't see the purpose. Because,
with
like I say, like his thing is Formula One racing.
Yeah.
So, unless he wanted to set up his own team for Formula E, which to me would make more sense.
Yeah,
he's doing something which, unless it's bringing, I'd probably need to look into this more. And I'm not saying you haven't, but you haven't. But
I haven't read one article, and I'm passing judgment.
No, but I'm trying to work out what the point of it is. If it's raising awareness, what is it doing? Because you're just going to these locations to. I get it that you wouldn't want to go there and pollute it more, so you're going to destroy it.
But surely don't go there.
That's what I mean, to preserve it.
Yeah, and they're going to a delicate ecosystem, taking this massive truck, probably got all these other trucks that have to turn up to support that one massive truck. And they're flying there and they're doing all this stuff. And you think, well, isn't it better not to do that?
Yeah.
And raise awareness? And one other positive thing, I know his quote is, extremely really appealed to me because it's an environmental focus. It means so much that I can use my love of racing together with my love of our planet to have a positive impact. And their team will be built around sustainability and equality, apparently. But he's not driving at all. But I think he's just financing it as such.
And he's been the ambassador, the face of it, I guess.
But apparently they'll commit something Formula E has committed to as well, which is an interesting thing. That there will be 2 drivers, 1 female, 1 male. Is the rule as well for it, which is an interesting thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just don't know. It seems a bit like what we was talking before, where you have a good idea, but it doesn't quite apply to.
Yeah. There needs to be a bit more substance to it in what the place in this example.
What the benefit is.
Yeah. What's the benefit to the rainforest or these kind of glacier regions?
Yeah.
Because surely there's still an element of destruction to it as well. If you're in a big old monster truck thing, that's what I mean. This is what I'm thinking. Off-road monster truck. Yeah, just there needs to be a bit more to it than that. I think
we've killed 50 monkeys, through driving through this space.
We've just had to tear down some of this rainforest to make the track.
The track.
That's what I mean. Like what? So is there a track there that no one's using, or then it's fine? But why is it there in the first place?
Nonsense.
Yeah.
Well, once you say Formula E reminds me of something that happened. It's probably about 6 months ago. Now, they, because of sort of coronavirus and lockdown and that, they had to remotely drive these cars. There's something that they could, like the drivers could be at home almost, and I don't know whether they had like a proper wheel set up and that, and were driving them remotely. But one of the drivers got caught out because he hired an esports guy, basically someone who played video games for a living, to do it for him, because it was basically what this guy did, and he knew the track really well. So yeah, he did it for him. I don't know whether he got suspended or sort of kicked out or whatever, but
the idea was good, but
exactly.
Once he got caught out, it wasn't so great.
Technology related again, but I think this is an example of it's something very environmentally sort of aware, but also something that I think as a consumer, there's a certain veil of mystery over certain products, and you look at something and you think I know, you look at your phone, you don't have to know how it works, but you're pretty confident that what you pay for it, and there's a lot of technology in that, and it's sort of justifying it in some way. What has happened sort of over the last week, it's a guy that I follow on Twitter, which I think his name's pronounced Foon, is Foone. On his Twitter feed, he posts loads of stuff where basically you'll buy a children's toy, an old computer or whatever, and break it down and work out how it works and sort of maybe mod it and play around with it. Half the stuff he does, I've got no idea. He's way above my level of intelligence, but I find it really interesting seeing him doing this stuff. He took apart a digital pregnancy test, which, if anyone's ever in the situation, not used, no, there's a new one out of the packet. And if you've ever bought one, you can buy the cheap ones, which show up a little line after you've weed on it, or an expensive one, which has a little readout, it has a screen, and it tells you, yeah, you're pregnant, whatever, all of that stuff. So he took apart one of the digital ones, and it turns out that you've got all these components on the screen and the processor. It's got a processor, the equivalent to the original IBM PC, which came out in the 80s. It's the equivalent to one of those that's in it. But all that does, you've still got the same bit of paper, and you've still got the same bit of paper and the same stripe on it. The machine on the circuit in it is just a sensor that reads whether there's a line on it or not, and then puts a word on the screen.
Hang up.
That's it.
So it's using a bit of tech to tell you what you would have found out.
To tell you what you would have seen with your own eyes if you'd bought the cheaper one. Amazing.
And you pay probably 4 times the amount.
However much for it. Exactly. But then you put it in the bin. So you're putting the equivalent of a PC 30 years ago in a bin. It's insane, isn't it?
It's crazy. It is crazy. But that doesn't surprise me, because I kind of think, well, how else are they? What is that? Well, technology's come on leaps and bounds since their initial pregnancy tests.
What the interesting thing that came from this thread on Twitter as well, the original pregnancy test that people used to do, and I think it was maybe in the 40s or 50s or something like that. I don't know the exact thing. No, it's better, right? What they did was had African frogs. It was this particular breed of African frog, and if you injected the urine into its leg, if you were pregnant, the frog would lay eggs. If you weren't, it wouldn't lay eggs. I'm not even making that up. That's a thing.
This sounds like something off of the Ricky Gervais show that Carl Pilkington would come out with about animal-related news. I mean, that sounds bizarre. When did this happen?
I need to find this out, but I can't remember the exact era it happened. But
hopefully, my mum and dad didn't need to.
No, I think it was
in the 80s.
Before that, 1930s.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't know when they did it up until, but tens of thousands of frogs were infused with human urine between the 40s and the 60s, apparently.
That's mental.
Yes.
I mean,
we've come a long way.
We have come a very long way. I don't think I'd want to be injecting any frogs. Did you have to do this yourself? I mean, at what point as well?
Did it. So you would go to the doctors and provide your urine sample, and they go, "Yeah, no problem. We'll have a look." Thinking there was some man in a lab, but no, it's just some bloke with a load of frogs.
I mean, I was going to say, if you've got to wait around until a frog's in your back garden, You're really clutching at straws to find out whether you're pregnant or not.
Yeah,
That's bizarre.
it is.
And also a good way of ending this week's show, I think, on a
Definitely. That bombshell.
strange, yeah. Think about that, listeners. Just think
Yeah.
about that, and we'll maybe we'll touch upon it another time. Um,
See what other animals can help us in our day-to-day
maybe we
needs.
can, yeah. I've got 2 sausage dogs. Let's see what they can do.
What can they tell me?
Yeah. So, well, that has been our first episode back for season 4. You can find all our links to the show on social media and on our website, thisweekinmetropolis.com. And also, we're going to try and get the merch stuff added up on there as well.
Definitely. And what I was going to say, we're constantly sort of expanding our reach and trying out sharing these episodes with lots of different ways. We do put the clips on Instagram and on IGTV, which we can see loads of people are listening to, which is fantastic. We've got the YouTube page, which now we are doing video full time. All of the video of us talking will be on there. But we also do have a second YouTube channel, which will be just the sections of chat that we have about a particular subject. So you can, if you want to listen to a particular thing again, if you want to listen to us talking about frogs and urine again, which will be a popular one, you can listen to that one just by itself, sort of edited for you.
And that's on Twim Bites.
Twim Bites on YouTube, which again we'll put in the link below. It's also, if you subscribe to our YouTube account, it's on the friends list on the right hand side as well.
Yeah. And just finally, a shout out again to Out of the Blank podcast. Me and Matt were both on there on a episode last week, so that should be coming out this week sometime. But you was also on an episode as well while we was away
during our time off.
So if you get a chance, give them a check out as well, because Robbie's got a great show over there as well. So check that out of the Blank podcast. But for now, that's the end of episode 1 of season 4, and hope you enjoy it, and we will speak to you again next week.
Goodbye.